Hey folks, welcome to Seattle Public Utilities Ask Evelyn Live, where we answer your questions about recycling, compost, garbage, and other trashy topics. I'm your host, Becca Fong, and this week's episode, get your thrift on. Cheers folks, it is National Thrift Store Day. I feel like Pat and I have been waiting for this episode since the beginning of Ask Evelyn. It really does check all the boxes for us. It's all about new to you, it's about repurposing, it's about repair, it's about supporting your community. It's all about an amazing treasure hunt. And let's be honest, folks, we all love a good deal, especially Pat and I. So we've got a really good question this week that gets us into the thrifting spirit. Let's get Pat logged in. Trash Talk and Fun. Hey, Pat.
Hey, Becca. Good to see
I'm
you.
so
How you doing?
excited.
I know. We get to talk about thrift, one of our favorite topics.
I know, right? I was just saying that, I feel like we've been waiting for this episode
Ah,
since the beginning of Ask Evelyn, because not only do you and I, as complete dyed-in-the-wool waste nerds, love talking about all the great things that thrift supports and kind of checks the boxes for,
yeah,
but we
right.
love a treasure hunt and a really good deal.
Yes, we do. Excellent. Okay, so I'll jump right into the question.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
totally.
This week's question comes to us from Angel. Hi, Evelyn. How do I know what I should take to the thrift store so it will get repurposed? I don't want to be that person that dumps stuff at the thrift store with having them nothing to do with it. So the question is she right? I mean, should she be dropping things off? What's the deal?
Yeah, Angel, really good question. So quick answer, there's kind of two major rules you want to think about. The first one is the most important, is if you're taking stuff to the thrift store, it's got to be in good, usable condition. I like to think that if you are good with gifting that to your auntie and she would be happy to have it in her home, it's good, usable condition. There are two exceptions to that rule. One is thread cycle. So we'll go through that because they can actually downcycle some of those fabrics and textiles. And then electronics, if they're participants in the eCycle Washington program, where they will recycle those components. But there are certainly more details than that. So Pat, let's get into the details.
Well, let's address the eCycle part first, because that's a steady stream of material. A lot of folks are always replacing their TVs or computers and whatnot, and that's what the law is passed for. It's because it is an important part of like consumer goods, and there's a lot of inherent like precious metals and things like that embedded in the circuit boards and different parts of the TVs. And the old TVs are even worse, the ones with the CRT, the cathode ray tube, the lead laden screens of the old TVs to save us from the radiation. So it's a very it's an important waste stream or material stream, and it really has a great home in Washington State. The full state, across our entire state, the eCycle Washington program applies. Any consumer can take their used TVs, computers, computer tower, the CPU, or laptop. All those materials are accepted for free to be dropped off at eCycle Washington partner sites. So Goodwill is one thrift chain that we know of, that we frequent, and they are a 100% participant to the eCycle Washington program. And there's a number of other electronics recycling stores, even TV sales and computer sales stores will take in the product sometimes. They'll provide that service. So because it's free to them to get rid of it, there's no fee to these collection points. All of the costs for the program are paid for by the computer and television manufacturers, which is what EPR is, extended producer responsibility.
For sure. And one little pro tip, I couldn't find this on the website for either Goodwill or for eCycle Washington. Goodwill, if you drop off, say, a television, if it's working, they usually test them and stuff like that, but sometimes there's something funky on it. I have put like a piece of tape or a note on it if it is not in working order, and you can still drop it off, but that saves, the folks who are sorting through the materials kind of the trouble or the sleuthing involved to figure out if that piece of electronic works.
Just a little piece of tape not working or broken or something like that is really what you want to say. And then for computers, if it's just too slow for you, your laptop, or it's got bugs and you don't know how to fix it or whatever, it's like very common, I think. Turn it into one of the electronics recycling places, because they will totally do a diagnostic. They may salvage some components. They will, and that's the other part, is if you want to buy a used computer that's totally wiped clean and totally safe, those folks are great at repurposing totally reusable electronics like computers and laptops.
Totally. And so we'll put a link to eCycle Washington so you can find all kinds of places to drop them off.
Right.
But Goodwill is a good thrift partner, Angel. So if you've got electronics, that's a good thing to think about. Textiles are the other exception, and we partner with many of the thrifts in town. So Goodwill, Savers, I believe Salvation Army may be part of that as well.
Yeah.
And Thread Cycle, stuff can be, it just cannot be wet or moldy.
Right.
Other than that, what they'll do is they'll kind of go through it and they'll sort out the different materials that are available for selling. So,
you know, it might not be what you want anymore in your kitchen, a kitchen towel that's got some stains on or something. That's okay. They will take that and they, you know, the industry term is ragging it out, right? So you want to talk more about that?
Yeah. So what that does is you can kind of downgrade it. So when you rag stuff out, it's either going to be like used for literally rags, right? You can buy boxes of rags for your shop and things like that. Or they'll take that fiber and they'll downgrade it into fabric insulation. Yeah. The cool thing about Thread Cycle, and it took me forever to wrap my brain around this. It's like, it's cool because the people literally sort everything at Goodwill. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I'll put it in a bag so it makes it easier to sort. But they will look at everything because what is maybe not good enough for your kitchen for some folks might be totally usable for another folks. So, but Pat, you've talked a lot with the thrifts about kind of that process of intake as well, which is I think what Angel's getting at. Yeah,
and when we took that tour of the Goodwill headquarters down on Dearborn in Seattle, the main warehouse, the receiving point, man, they move a lot of product through there. And everything comes in the big blue bins, the big cardboard boxes, or whatever the mechanism is, through all their satellite collection points all around the city, and their individual stores. But the point is that everything gets processed. So every pair of shoes, every individual shoe, I mean every item that you donate gets processed. And there are people who are specialized in certain categories. There's clothing and shoes and housewares and jewelry and books and tools and all kinds of stuff, toys, sporting goods. There's different stations throughout the facility. And so the material flows through, they're going through it rather quickly, but they're definitely doing an assessment. They pick up an item, like there's one of my favorite finds at a Goodwill.
That's a good
so
one.
They look at it, it's got a little chip in it, I know that, but I'm okay with one little chip. It's still a nice little fruit bowl. And they'll look at it and say, one chip, that's okay. We're going to put this on the shelf for the floor. And it went out, that kind of a thing. Not all thrift or drop-off sites are going to be like that, but in some of them that have the capacity to go through everything, they're doing that. And what's important there is that they're trying to reduce the amount of material that goes to landfill. Everything we donate to them, they have to get rid of. They either have to sell it, or they have to broker it as a commodity, or they have to landfill it or recycle it. I mean, they're probably one of the biggest metal recyclers in town, Goodwill. So, and not to talk about just Goodwill, but all the thrift stores have a pretty heavy, steady flow of material going to landfill, because folks are giving them stuff that really isn't usable anymore. And that's the bummer part of it. But they kind of have to take a little bit of the bad to get to the good, I think, is part of the deal, Yeah.
But I think, Angel, your question gets to the point of like good, usable condition.
Yeah.
So I think a lot about, Pat and I do love thrifting. And the part of that is the treasure hunt. It's finding stuff that is good for you, right? And of course, I just have to say this because this is part of this show, is that the greatest thing about stuff that is new to you is that the major impact of the environment is done when things are produced, right? So when you buy something that has already been used, has already been produced, and it is new to your life, you have not incurred all of that extra environmental impact from the production of the thing. So, you save yourself some money, you find some treasures, and it's a little bit lighter on the environment. So all those things are fantastic, right?
Yeah, I think some of the greenest products that exist on the shelf are the ones that were already, used for a purpose. There's still utility left in it. Like this is you can't buy a bowl greener than this, because not that the color's that green, but the point is that it's already served a purpose. It's already served its life, and yet there's still life left in it. So to purchase even the most recycled content bowl that you could find that was sourced from plants or sourced, no. The one that's already been produced and you're able to keep in operation, the one you saved from the landfill, that's the greenest one, because that's all the inherent energy and material and labor and all the costs, all the parts that go into the inputs are already there, and you're able to kind of keep it going. So, and we're all thrifty. That's the other thing I want to say on this show. Thriftiness is not a, oh, that, you know, for those who are watching, it's not a them and not me. Everybody has a degree of thrift in them. You know, everybody has a moment when they're like, you know, oh, I love this shirt. I want it to last a little longer. I'm so bummed I lost this button or whatever. You know, you should repair your own things, of course, but that's what thrifting is. It's like finding that item that still has life left in it, and you can kind of get more utility out of it.
Sure. Making things last as long as possible. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. So again, it's like one thing about Angel's question about figuring out what they should take. I found that when I was going online, and we'll definitely put links to this as well, is figuring out, you can look at where you're going to go drop your stuff off. And a lot of those actual individual drop-off locations, even within an organization like Salvation Army or Goodwill, they will have a list, much like Mary's Place did when we had Katrina on last week. They know specifically what they want, and the closer you can to dial that in, the better. I mean, a lot of our thrift stores have been pretty overwhelmed with materials in the last couple of years. So you want to make sure that it's something that they can receive and they can turn around and use, because these organizations are supporting our community. And that's another great thing about supporting our thrift stores. So,
well, it is National Thrift Store Day. We're happy to celebrate that. It lined up with our show, which is fabulous and fantastic. But I do want to say the other part of thrifting, you know, the act of thrifting, as we've described, it's also people to people, person to person, you know, so the thrift stores are a great institution. They're always there for us. We should go there. But if you have an item, the highest and best handoff of your item is from you to another person who sees the value in it. So if you have something that's still pretty good, you can give it to the thrift store. That's great. But you can also just try and find another person to take it from you. And that's going to ensure that it's not going to get broken in process, or something might happen to it. So yeah, that's another option.
Totally. Absolutely. It would be remiss. You got to show and tell a little bit. My favorite earrings I got.
Okay. Nice. Yes.
And my blouse, both my sweater and my blouse, I got at the thrift store. Actually, I think everything I'm wearing, including my belt and my pants, I got at the thrift store. So, and I've had them all and I've had them all for many years, you know, and so that's kind of the best thing about it, is that I've had them for years and years, even though they had a life before they came to me. So.
Well, I did show you my bowl. I want to also just show real quickly this little shoulder bag that I have, which is really handy.
Very nice.
To the Mariner game last week, so that was fun. And then I found this jewel, this awesome carpenter square, you know, one day there. And this is like $1 or $2. I mean, to go get this at, you know, a hardware store would be like $25 easy. So, you know, terrific thrifty finds and valuable items available.
Yep. One man's thrift is another man's treasure, right?
So go pop some tags, people.
Absolutely. Celebrate National Thrift Store Day. Angel, thank you for your question. New and usable condition, except for textiles and electronics. And I think, Pat, you've got a really good point. The best way to thrift is person to person, because you know what? Like, that's just real easy. And it shows that you're thinking about the other person too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little gift.
Nice. I like it.
All right, folks, remember, keep those questions coming, because this show runs on your questions. So you can send them to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can send us an email at askevelyn@seattle.gov. And we are going to be off next week, but we will be back the week after. So please keep those questions coming. We will get to you guys, and enjoy these next couple of weeks of the end of summer. They should be fantastic. All right. With that, I'm Becca Fong, and life's simpler with less stuff.
And I'm Pat Kaufman. Remember to recycle right. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.